Well, I got a little bit of UFO news. This is a newer story. This was sent to me on Twitter by Black Mask, so thank you, Black Mask. And this is titled "Aliens and UFOs at World's Deepest Lake." And before the show, Kretsch is like, "Hey, didn't we talk about this already?" I think we brought it up as an aside, but we didn't go into the specifics of this. But what is the name of this lake again? This is Balcalay?
It's pronounced Laurel.
Laurel? Lake Laurel?
It's Baikal.
Baikal.
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to make the pre-show. Anyone who listens to the pre-show on Patreon, was Mike trying to pronounce this word?
Baikal. Well, I'll read a little bit of this. Since ancient times, the vast Lake Baikal has been known as deeply mysterious. But in the closing years of the Soviet era, and since, it has been the location of a number of alleged sightings of aliens and UFOs. Initially, these were covered up by the authorities of the USSR, but later they were revealed by the Russian media. In recent days, there have been unconfirmed reports in Russia that American director Steven Spielberg is planning a documentary based on these weird, unexplained accounts. But that has been not confirmed. It's just an internet rumor. There's no confirmation that Spielberg is going out there to do any sort of UFO documentary. But the versions of the extraterrestrial activity at Baikal, edged by mountains and containing 1/5 of the world's unfrozen fresh water, relate to the supposed aliens seen by military divers in its depths and large spaceships hovering over its gray, moody expanse. So this is a huge lake. This is a record.
Record deepness, right?
Absolutely record deepness.
It's a huge lake.
And I read through the story. I did find some interesting little things here. So there's like a lot of like this standard accounts. People that would be out in the middle of the night, look up at the sky, and they see a huge spacecraft in the area of the lake. They all stare at it. They all agree, hey, we're looking at a giant spaceship, and then it zooms off over the lake. And then there are other accounts that describe entities that are coming out of these ships. And what I found to be curious was this very particular one right here. So another resident said that from this dish that came down, there were people in shiny, shimmering costumes. There were people, as far as I can remember, 3 people in shiny yellow suits. It seems that they were people, and they're describing yet again 3 people in shiny suits coming out of a UFO near this lake.
You sure there were 3 of them? I have a picture of 4 of them.
Well, according to this person, that's a picture of Devo, for crying out loud. Oh God!
You said shiny yellow suits.
That is right. I don't think Devo was descending out of a UFO.
All right, I'll find a better
But maybe.
picture. I got a better picture in mind.
But this person went on to say it was some kind of circle. It can be said it was like a disc. It turned on its edge, and the windows were visible on this UFO. I personally decided for myself that these were people. They had some human image. Remember, this is translated from Russian. They were the same straight, slender. They had arms and legs. They had a gait that was the same as ours. A little lower down, there were 3 in orange suits. They went down from the disc like a man, and the steps were very visible. Then, as they recounted the strange events, the aliens saw the people watching them. They returned to their spaceship and flew away. Which is, they had 3 people in yellow suits, 3 people in orange suits, and then they're like, oh shit, humans are watching us. We got to get the heck out of here. We don't need anybody seeing what we're doing down here. So
it sounds like alien teenagers who were up to no good, and they saw that their neighbors were watching them, and they went laughing and running and shoving each other back into the bushes till they got back to their car and then left.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what you just described. They're coming down the stairs. They're humanoid. They see they're being observed. They quickly turn around and run.
Yeah. So there's another account from supposedly from military, where there's some military divers in the area, and they were, this is, I think, in the late 70s, early 80s, they went down into the lake. They saw what was a creature. They radioed back up, and the commanding officer said, yeah, let's get that creature. And so as they tried to net this creature underwater, it produced a wave, sending these divers very quickly out of the depths and onto shore. There were 7 of them, and of the 7 divers, only 4 survived because that's all the room they had in their decompression chambers. They only had 2 available. You only could fit 2 people per chamber, and so 3 of the divers wound up dying, and they did not wind up capturing that creature, which they thought was some sort of humanoid. They likened it to ancient Russian folklore of basically what's translated to a shark boy. And, well,
shark boy.
A shark boy, a Russian shark boy said, you ain't capturing me, and blasted them out of the water, and they died. So there's a lot of different strange things around this. Very interesting that they have, like, this lake has their own version of, like, Loch Ness Monster, you know, some sort of dinosaur that may live below the surface, UFOs going in and out of the water, entities living in the water, and then spacemen descending from discs and just checking out the general area. It seems like a paranormal UFO hotspot. But as I read, because that number 3 stuck out to me, and I was like, okay, you had 3 aliens descending out of a disc. We did the whole last episode I talked about aliens was like the number 3 being repeated over and over again. I was like, how many of the description, how many stories are there of people who see divers or aliens or humanoids that appear to be wearing diving outfits? Well, quite a few. I found just within a couple hours of research, probably at least 15, and I'm sure there's many more out there of people encountering aliens or UFOs, and the UFOs will open up and people wearing diving outfits will come out. Now, it might just be a skin-tight bodysuit, but a lot of times that they not only have a skin-tight bodysuit, but they'll have some sort of helmet on, oftentimes without any sort of hose connected to oxygen or any sort of apparatus, like no external tank supplied. So I'll read just a couple of these because I'm on a diver kick. I'm kind of wondering if there's something more to this, and I think that I don't know if we're on the right track here, but it's a fun track, and there's nothing funner than alien divers out there. So
or
there is
divers.
What was that? A holy diver?
Or a holy diver.
As a DO reference, I'll allow it. Thank you. So there was this. This is from Russia. This is from 1997. So there's this former officer, and he's an amateur diver that has been diving in shallow waters in the bay. This is the Bay of Finland, St. Petersburg region. So he's had been diving in shallow waters in the bay when he spotted a strange elongated object shaped like a cucumber. He tied a rope around the object and tried to pull it to the surface. However, he was not successful and decided to attach some slings to the strange cucumber and connect it to his automobile bumper to pull the thing out of the bay. He came to the surface and obtained the necessary equipment in order to perform the task. He brought a pneumatic drill with him for the purpose of drilling holes into the object and attach a sling. He descended to the bottom again and attempted to drill a hole into this cucumber-type object.
Wait. So it's shaped like a cucumber, but clearly it's a lot larger because he's tying ropes around it.
Yeah, I'm assuming this thing, he's not...
Or is this man incredibly weak?
Like he can't pick up a cucumber. So, I can't pick up pickles or cucumbers. I'm so weak.
This is the scuba pickle. He goes back out. He ties the rope around the bumper of his car. So he's going to redneck engineer this.
Yes.
And then when he can't do it... he goes to get a drill,
Yeah.
with the intent of now destroying the thing he was trying to get.
That's right.
So on a scale of 1 to like all of it, how much vodka did this guy have beforehand?
Well, I mean, he is Russia, you know, so I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm assuming that this is a human size cucumber. Like, this is one big pickle.
That's
you know what I'm talking
giant
about?
pickle.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So he gets a drill. He descends up to the bottom again and attempts to drill a hole in the object. Suddenly, a stream of dark liquid resembling oil spews out of the object, hitting him in the face. But instead of switching off the drill, he increased its air pressure in an attempt to make the hole deeper. He heard a loud crunch within the cucumber and noticed a blood-like substance in the water. The object suddenly then split in half, revealing a large cavity inside. From it, a large dull bubble floated out. At this moment, he encountered a strange entity, apparently human-like, with unnaturally white skin and what appeared to be a wound on his back caused by the drill. The wound appeared to be bleeding. The entity's face was distorted by pain and anger. The entity looked at the diver with some immovable hypnotic glance, soundlessly opening and closing his mouth. The witness attempted to push away the cucumber-shaped object along with the strange entity, but the entity succeeded in grabbing his hand. The humanoid had clawed fingers, very sharp, which tore into the sleeve and cutting him deeply. Struggling, he used a drill to free himself by stabbing the hand of the entity and stabbing his chest. After that, he lost consciousness and somehow was pulled out of the water by some fellow passersby. There's no traces of the humanoid or the cucumber object, and it just disappeared, and he left the scene without any sort of souvenir of his cucumber encounter in the water. 1997. Don't know what to really make of that. It's just an interesting.
I would say the only thing I
story.
make of it is don't store your giant pickles just off the coast of St. Petersburg.
Well, and don't store bodies in your giant
what
pickle.
I do with my giant pickle is my business.
Exactly.
I just didn't expect some Russian guy to come by with a rope,
Yeah.
a car, and a pneumatic drill and start
That's right.
ruining it.
Yeah, it's just something like Tim Allen would do in Home Improvement. But it's bizarre.
That's weird, though.
But it's an underwater entity story, and there's quite a few of these. Then, as I was like reading through these stories, I got like one or two more. I was just going over in my head of the types of movies that came out in the 80s and 90s that dealt with aliens and water. And you had some big ones. You had The Abyss, James Cameron's The Abyss, which dealt with aliens literally living at the bottom of the ocean floor, not wanting to be messed with. And you had our military going down there trying to figure out what they are, what they may want, and trying to blow them up. That's a huge one. Then you had, you remember this one, Cratchit? Sphere. I think it had Dustin Hoffman.
Well, that was a terrible movie. The book's awesome, though.
Yeah, the premise is great, and I recommend people watch it. I guess I'll just give a brief synopsis. So it's Dustin Hoffman, Samuel L. Jackson. They are scientists sent out to investigate this weird object at the bottom of the ocean, and they come to figure out that it is not of this planet. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gretchen. And it uses the human consciousness against us. Like it feeds off our imagination.
The thing is, if you're remembering stuff from the movie,
Yeah, I am.
I can't remember the story in that because I read the book several times and then saw the movie, which probably changed some of that stuff. I don't want to. There's an interesting twist, I guess, reveal towards the end, at least in the book. I don't know if that comes out of the movie. In fact, I think it's actually that twist is actually revealed at the beginning of the book, which is part of the premise, but I don't remember, so I don't want to spoil that. But it's an interesting movie. Tommy in the chat brought up the two I was thinking of, was Deep Star 6 and Leviathan.
Okay,
yeah, weird underwater creature movies. And
I
they
totally
were kind of
overlooked
back to
those.
back.
Totally overlooked those. So yeah, some weird creatures there. Then in the 2000s, you had Ender's Game come out, which was a movie based on the book, but I don't know if this came out. This was in the movie. The movie was that Earth was attacked by this alien race, this alien bug race. And
they're always bugs.
Yeah, they're always bugs. And it wasn't really, clarified, or at least in the movie, they just thought it was an unprovoked attack. But the real reason that they chose to attack Earth, they just wanted the water. That's all they wanted. And they're from a star system that didn't have a great supply of water. They saw Earth and said, hey, let's go get some of that. And that was their whole motivation, was to come here for our water. And that's just off the top of my head. And I'm sure there's a good number of other movies out there that deal with aliens and water and all that kind of stuff. Maybe there's some sort of, I don't know, predictive programming, but there might be something in our subconsciousness that makes creative people want to write that kind of scenario, maybe because it's more interesting, or maybe we're pulling those ideas out of the simulation. Who knows?
Well, I think there's a general similarity in the two environments between, a deep space, a story about deep space and aliens, and then underwater, which is so close that Russian guys can tie ropes around their bumpers and drag shit out of it. But at the same time, is also a very unknown and wild and scary place. So if you go deep enough, then you could write the same story, whether it takes place on a spaceship and encounters creatures in space. It could also be in a submarine encountering creatures underwater, and it's the exact same story. So
yeah,
I think that's probably part of the attraction to it. From a Hollywood perspective, it probably makes more sense to film them in water, because while filming in water is expensive, it's less expensive than trying to put people on wires and CGI and float them around in space and all that stuff. So there's probably some reason for that.
Yeah,
I do want to point out, as far as general underwater movies, there's one called, believe it or not, Underwater, from maybe 2 years ago, about a giant underwater, I think it's a drilling rig, oil rig, that gets attacked by unknown creatures. And it's a standard kind of horror movie, jump scares and that sort of thing. But there's a really interesting, not really a twist, but just the reveal of what these creatures are at the end, which is kind of fun for anybody who's a fan of the show. Would be well worth the last scene, or the scene at the end where they kind of reveal the creatures behind this and where they are, or where they're from and all that. Makes the rest of the movie worth it. Otherwise, it's really unremarkable. But it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I see Post Void in the chat saying Waterworld. I'm not going to throw that in here because that's just a post-apocalyptic, amazing Costner movie. It has nothing to do with aliens. Really.
Kevin Costner drinks his urine, and they said, "Mr. Costner, you absolutely do not." He's doing it again. You don't need to be doing. He's doing it again.
If I have to pick my post-apocalyptic Kevin Costner movie, it's going to be The Postman.
Postman, yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be The Postman.
I like, for my post-apocalyptic movie for Kevin Costner, I like Robin Hood.
Oh, yeah. That was really
post-apocalyptic?
Nice.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I like that one. That's a really good post-apocalyptic.
Actually, my favorite Kevin Costner movie is actually, I'm going to forget the name of it now. American Flyers is my favorite one. But no one's ever seen that movie.
No, I don't know what that
is. It's a great film. Come on, if anyone's seen it. Someone in the chat knows American Flyers.
Well, I got a great movie. Maybe one or two humanoid stories here. Maybe I'll do this one more, and this is an interesting one. This is also another one dealing with people in diving suits. We like diving suits. They make your body look good, This comes from Mexico, 1993, right around 5 a.m. in the morning, and Mr. Chalaga was sleeping at his home when suddenly a bright blue light entered through his window and woke him up. Everything seemed to be very still, and all the surroundings were enveloped in a strange blue light. Looking out the window, he saw a gold-colored disc-shaped object about 15 meters in diameter land in a nearby field. The craft was totally silent. A hatch opened up, and several huge figures came out. They were about 2.5 meters in height, human-like, and wearing tight-fitting, silvery diving suits. How big is 2.5 meters? Is that like 8 foot?
About that, yeah.
About 8 foot. So they had the long arms, pale complexions, large blue slanted eyes, and long blonde hair. The witness at this time had walked over to the craft. The visitors saluted him with a gloved hand and waved at him, and then invited him inside the craft. So these blue giant diver people invite him and come on in, buddy. Hey, thanks for coming out. Come on inside the craft. Well, once inside, the witness noticed that the humanoids also had long pointed ears. He saw numerous consoles and what appeared to be comfortable seats. I guess they had some lazy boys up there. He also saw a metallic table with several different instruments. One of the humanoids showed him a screen where he saw scenes of war, destruction, and ecological collapse. After an undetermined amount of time, the craft then landed in an unknown beautiful field, filled with humans of all ages. A large golden sun illuminated the city. He was taken to a crystalline waterfall that was surrounded by beautiful colored stones. There were humanoids explained to Mr. Chalaga that his destiny was that of caring and healing his fellow human beings. He was also told that humanoids had several bases in his area, including one in, I guess, Luguana. Well, this guy was also warned of different types of aliens that were also visiting Earth, and the ones that were responsible for the reported animal mutilations. These were described by these tall entities as the short, large-headed humanoids with huge black eyes and 4 fingers on each hand and protruding stomachs that mostly wore tight-fitting maroon outfits and traveled in small craft with ball landing gear. That's super specific.
It sounds like the Jetsons.
It sounds so ridiculous. So it sounds like these tall blue aliens wearing diving suits are going, hey, you got to keep an eye on the little gray aliens because they're taking your cattle, they're taking your people, and they don't give a darn about you. Okay? They don't give a crap about you. Well, this guy was eventually returned home. He reported he reported a drastic loss of weight soon after the incident, but recovered. Other locals reported low flying lights over the area about the time that he was taken up and taken away. But currently, this guy is known as a local healer, and he uses natural herbs and remedies to help his patients. I was beyond like the diving suits and everything. I've also been dwelling on the number 3 when it comes to humanoid interactions. And I think I might have an explanation to this. And it's not going to go to numerology or anything like this. I'm relating everything that I know to computers and infrastructure and deployment to what I'm reading in these stories. And so when you deploy a couple of servers and you have to worry about traffic, you're worried about your site being hit by too much
talking about
internet
load
traffic.
Balancing.
Yeah, load balancing, exactly. Typically, you want to have, if you have any sort of intelligent load balancing, you want to have 3, because whatever decision-making process there's going to be a vote. And so you want to have an odd number so that it goes to one side or the other for the voting process. So 3 people makes a vote possible. If you just have 2 entities or 4 entities, there very well could be a standstill in decision making. So that 3rd person or 5th person can tip the balance in one decision or another. Makes sense, at least to me.
Well, that's where the where the phrase "minority report" comes from in the Philip K. Dick story and in the movie later. But there was 3, and there was, you take the best 2 out of 3, and the minority report was the dissenting opinion.
Yeah.
The crux of the story being that at one point the dissenting opinion was affecting the opinion or the majority opinion, and so that was one they had to look at. So
you can make decisions with 2 people, but you have to talk, you have to present your case, and then have a discussion back and forth about what you're going to do. It just seems like the using the odd man or odd entity or odd alien is a much more efficient way to do that. And if we're seeing things in 3s, it might be like it's speculated that the Greys are a soulless robotic race. And it would make sense they would want to abduct people in 3s if they are much more computer, like binary thinking. Like their rationale is
Wouldn't
not
it be
on
trinary thinking?
Yeah, trinary thinking. It's not like on an emotional level. There's not a lot of discussion. They just make some choices, they vote on it, and boom, it's done. It's very quick.
So you're saying they rock paper scissors it, but they have a fourth one.
I think so. I mean,
rock paper scissors pickle.
Yeah, pretty much. Cucumber.
Cucumber.
Yeah, water cucumber. I mean, those are just like two little things right there. I got another one over here from Tacoma, Washington, 1968, where there's a woman, and this is a quick one. I'll just read this, and then we'll move on. But Vera Jones should have been in bed, but instead she sat in her kitchen looking out the window. This is at night. She had a problem. A husband who drank and mistreated her. Out near a streetlight, she was amazed to see what looked like 3 large bubbles float down. She hurried outside and was watching them when a big, round, black object with bright, beautiful red lights came in over the church across the street. Vera rushed back to her house and peered out the window. 3 light-skinned, tall men wearing skin-tight divers suits were standing near the window. They had handsome faces and spoke in a very pleasant, masculine English voice. The method of communication was mind to mind and not vocal. Here is what Mrs. Jones said happened next. The spacemen asked me if I wanted to go for a ride. They said they were from Saturn. They said they had been watching me for some time and that I was a goddess. Then they got mean and said they were going to take my kids away from me. I asked them how they could do such a thing. Then I blew up at them and they went away. In the following days, the witness began hearing the spacemen's voices in her front room. They seemed to be discussing her husband's treatment of her. But once she heard what sounded like swords clashing, she heard them talking about her as she took a bath. At night in bed, she felt like something was making love to her, but could not see anything. Distraught and full of fear for her children and herself, she went to a nearby fire station. She began to tell the men there about what was happening to her. They called the police, and it was not long before she found herself in a local hospital for the insane. Yep.
I feel sorry for your mother.
Yeah, that was a very oddball story. I like the idea of she hears swords going on, so they're now sword fighting, but then they're talking about her while she's in the bath.
It's just weird stuff. This is weird stuff.